So you want to be a knife thrower? You fancy yourself a knife thrower? Well, you've come to the right place if you need some help with that. Welcome to Sergeant Shank's complete knife throwing course. And I am Sergeant Shank, retired U.S. Army, where I spent 20 years in the infantry, airborne, and later on I got into tanks and enlisted side. And I've been throwing knives for about 50 years, since I was a kid. And if you're wondering why all the candles and uniform and all that stuff, well, quite honestly, I'm trying to make it interesting. Because I've got over 5 hours of video material on knife throwing. Everything I could think of, I included in this course, and it took me over a year to put this together. Oh, I don't want to go over 15 minutes on this. I tend to ramble a bit. 15-minute timer. So who am I? Yes, retired U.S. Army, living on my pension. I wrote a book, Sergeant Shank's book on knife throwing, about, I think it was around 2011. And it sells steady on Amazon, holds down 4-star reviews, which I'm grateful for that. I mean, but this video course is everything my book is, and then some. And here's a picture of that screenshot from my book on Amazon. And yeah, I got into this, I bought a book on knife throwing about 15 years ago. And it was just mostly pictures of some tall, lanky guy throwing knives. And really didn't teach anything at all. And I thought, I can do better than this. I might not be a better knife thrower than this man, but I can teach knife throwing better. And there was the idea to write this book, which I wrote and illustrated. It's all homemade, but yeah, it sells pretty good. It still sells. Picture off. And so this video course, honestly, knife throwing is one of those things that writing or making a video on it is well suited, because what's the difference if I'm standing with you with throwing knives, telling you how to throw the knives, and this and that. At the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be throwing the knives every time. All I can do is put all my knowledge on the information, share it with you, and demonstrate. And that's what I do in this video course at great lengths. I will tell you that in the Army I was a training sergeant, and for I think about 6 years of my career. And so I kind of go at knife throwing, I bring into it the training philosophy that I used in the U.S. Army throughout the years when I was in. And that's crawl, walk, run, and safety first before we go to the range. If I was going to teach, rifle marksmanship or tank gunnery or anything, safety first and always. And then we learn the weapon systems and that sort of stuff, and then we go to the range and start firing. In this case, I'm going to start with safety first, because I've known 3 guys hurt pretty bad throwing knives in my life. They're just guys I know. And one of them was hurt very badly. Actually, 2 of them were hurt very badly. And I tell about that a few times through the throughout the course. You may not have known anybody ever hurt badly or even killed throwing knives, but it happens. And I start off my safety course on this demonstrating how hard a thrown knife hits. They hit real hard, and you will see that in that video. The whole course is videos. This is the only course where I'm sitting down at a table I take that back. There's the last one that I made. It turned winter here in New York State, where I'm at, upstate New York. That's at a table where I talk about knives, knife length, where size matters, knife size. If you hear anything behind me, my dog's behind me, so he's got all right. He's Basset Hound. But everything's outdoors, and some of it I ride in on my motorcycle, and I'm wearing this, and shades, and, well, no helmet, but at least I've got glasses on to protect my eyes on the motorcycle. So, you know, whatever it takes to try to make this interesting. But it's not a bunch of fluff. Everything on all these videos is right to the point. But it is going to be me talking about knives, me throwing knives. And I want to instill everything I know and 50 years of throwing knives to you. And, you know, when you go out to throw, you're going to be throwing a lot if you're going to get good. There's no shortcuts to being a good knife thrower. But I do give you a few tips that work for me to help me, you know, really help me out a lot to be able to stick the knife and then hit the target accurately. So this is the only time I'm going to bore you by sitting down at a table with some candles. The rest of it, it's all outdoors after this. Let's see, I got 4 chapters. I'm going to read off. There's 27 videos. I believe there's 27. And I'm going to read off to you what this course, when I say it's a complete knife throwing course, this is a complete knife throwing course. There's only a couple things that I don't cover in this, and that would be, I might get to that. I might get to reaction drills, like quick draw knife throwing. No, I'm not going to do that. I don't think it's, for starting out, I don't think it's safe. But I may get to that in the next year, that and a few other things. Alright, so I'm going to roll through some montage of video clips of my knife throwing course that I made over the past year, almost year and a half, and I'm going to read off what is involved in this course, okay? Chapter 1 is on safety and responsibility. First thing I talk about, how hard a thrown knife hits. Then I've got a class on bounce backs. It's probably the biggest threat to a knife thrower, and more so to people and animals around a knife thrower, are bounce backs. And then I've got 2 classes on stop bleeding, and this is very important because you get hit with a thrown knife, or somebody you know gets hit with one by accident, hopefully by accident. You're going to be bleeding a lot, and maybe you're going to have a plan in place because once that accident happens, it's showtime. You've got to take action. So stop bleeding, first class on pressure dressing, and then second class is stop bleeding, how to apply a tourniquet, when to call 911 or call for help, and how to treat for shock. Then I'm going to do a class on, now this may sound corny, but this is deadly serious stuff with knife throwing. The 5th class is knife stuck in body. Do you pull it out? I'm going to go into that. Then another class on intoxication. This is safety classes. And then finally the final safety class is on removing ding marks or burrs and dulling the edge of your knife. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because that is a way you can cut yourself pretty good. Okay, that's chapter 1 on safety. Chapter 2 I'm going to be talking about, it's going to go into throwing knives and targets. So throwing knives and targets. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what I call Knife Anatomy 101. The construction of a knife, different terminology. And second, I'm going to talk about what makes a good throwing knife. Third, I'm going to talk about the perfectly balanced throwing knife. If you ever heard of a well-balanced throwing knife, I'm going to discuss that. And then I'm going to talk about using the same or varied types of throwing knives. Then I'm going to talk about knife size when size matters. Then we're going to talk briefly about knowing your local knife carrying laws. And I'm going to talk about a class on knife targets. And finally, in Chapter 2, I'm going to wrap it up with a class on knife target footpaths. That's the footpath between your throwing position and your knife target. Going into Chapter 3, we go out to the range, so to speak, and we put all this to use. Okay, safely and with knowledge of knives and targets. Chapter 3, throwing and sticking the knife. Emphasis is just being able to throw the knife and stick it, taking all the BS luck factor out of it, being able to consistently stick the knife every time you throw it. So the first class is on the first 3 ways to grip the throwing knife. Then I'm going to talk about the first knife throw, and you got to learn these in sequence. Knife throw number 1 is what I call the blade held half-turn throw. And it's important, and you'll know why at the end of this course, that you learn these in sequence. Knife throw 1, the blade held half-turn throw. And once you've mastered that, and you will, knife throw number 2 is the handle held full turn throw. Opens up the range a bit. Then I've got a class on, I call mastering the spin. 3 tips on mastering the spin of the knife. And then I've got a class on mastering the spin in regards to wrist and release action, the hand and wrist. And moving on to Chapter 4, once you've learned how to stick the knife, now we're going to work on actually hitting the target with precision, accuracy, precision. Not just sticking the knife in the side of a barn door, but be able to hit something very precise. And this is all going to take a lot of practice. So Chapter 4 starts off with what I call accuracy class 1, keeping both sets of eyes on the target. And I did say both sets. And I realize you only have 2 eyes on the front of your head. So I'm going to talk about a little something else in that class. Then a class on what I call accuracy number 2 class, and that's make the target smaller. Then a class on knowing your maximum controlled throwing velocity. Then a class on internal and external factors influencing your game. Just knowing you could have an off day. It's just like shooting at the range with rifles, any precision sport. You can have an off day, and it's good to know what makes an off day and what to do about it, how to avoid it, how to handle it. Any precision sport has the same things, hurdles. And finally, in Chapter 4 on improving accuracy, I'm going to talk about lapses in practice that happen and getting back into knife throwing after you've been out of it for a while. I mean, I had an injury and I was out of it for a decade or better. I had a shoulder injury. And finally, there's extra material that I put together in this course. And one is collecting and modifying throwing knives. And then I got a story about my Army story where I was made in the 82nd Airborne. They made me the platoon silent sentry takeout man because I had a reputation as a really good knife thrower. And I've got a kind of funny story about how that came to be. Now, extra material in 2023, I might get into throwing axes, cleavers, tomahawks, maybe in 2023, maybe. Another maybe for next year or the following year after this. 2023 is, as I speak, January. I might get into the double turn throw. I don't know what application you would have for that, or I would have included it in the course. And I might get into fast reaction, quick draw throwing, possibly next year. Next summer, I should say. And that's what this class entails. And I will tell you that this is over 5 hours. Not over. It's about 5 hours of video here. I think a little over 5 hours. Quite a bit of work went into this. I will tell you that I'm not giving the whole thing away for free. but I'm going to give away the first half. And if you like the way I present my material, I'm not going to charge much. I'm not, I like to give people a good deal. But I plan on trying to make a buck off this. But I'm going to give away a good 2.5, 3 hours of video, so you can check it out. And if you like it, pluck down basically the cost of a price of beer or coffee or whatever. I'm not going to charge much, but I'd like to make a few bucks off it. I put quite a bit of work into this. It's not, I wouldn't call it a professional production, in that it's just me and my camera, and it's not really scripted. I didn't script any of this. I did think it through quite a bit. And the camera, sometimes, some of it's overexposed, the background, but that's the ones that are, doesn't really interfere with myself, the targets, and the knives. But there was a couple at the range where behind me was a field that was brightly lit, and sometimes that gets kind of washed out. But myself, and there, it's in pretty clear. What else is to say? I really think you should, if you undertake this course, you should take it in the sequence that I've laid it out. Take the time to watch the safety videos. It's very important. I was going to talk about morality and things. I really hope nobody ever does anything bad or illegal throwing knives from this course. I have no control of what you do with your life, but I really hope that you all are on the good side of things and responsible. What else is there? I'll put up a list of what this course entails after the end when I'm done talking here. Yeah, I'm not anything fancy. I'm middle-aged. Been retired from the Army for a while. I would have liked to have done this when I was a lot younger, cut a more striking figure, and actually I could throw better then too. But I didn't have all the information that I present to you now either. So really, it doesn't really matter what I look like. It's what the information that I'm giving you. And I honestly am giving you every bit of knowledge on knife throwing that I have. And this is coming from somebody who's written a book about it. And I had a reputation as a knife thrower throughout my life, in the military and amongst my friends. So it's, for me, the thing is, I talk about this, but I just like throwing a knife, the challenge of it. It's all about the sport for me. I'm not trying to be some kind of martial arts or scary person with this. It's about the sport of knife throwing. The satisfaction I get from being able to take a knife by the blade or by the handle and throwing it and hitting what I'm throwing at with a gratifying thunk, not a clang where I missed. And that takes practice. And you, as a knife thrower, are going to be practicing a lot. And you're going to be responsible about it. Don't throw your arm out. If you overdo it throwing, you start feeling pain in your shoulder or your arm, stop throwing, because you're on the verge of maybe straining a muscle or tearing a muscle. So you got to do this wisely. And if you're old like me, stretch, warm up before, because honestly, throwing a knife is like throwing a baseball hard. You're putting your whole body into this, and you can tear a rotator cuff and some other things if you're not careful. So please listen to your body, and I threw my arm out when I was 30. You don't even have to be old. I threw my arm out when I was 30, and I couldn't throw. I think it was almost 12 years before I could throw again. I really injured myself pretty badly. It can happen. And like I said, I know 3 guys injured throwing knives. One in the Army, one was a friend of mine, and the other was somebody's son. The guy was throwing knives, and his son wound up getting injured, accidentally. And all 3 of them were hurt very badly. So have a plan in place with first aid. And I've run out of time. Did I even start that? I don't know. Yeah, went on and went on. All right, so that's the introduction to Sergeant Shank's complete knife throwing course. If you undertake this, I welcome you and I wish you luck and all you do. And check out my videos, and if you like it, you know, pay whatever. If you like it, get the rest of it. You know, so I'll give you quite a bit for free so you can see if it's, you know, something you want or not. So, well, that's all. No, I can't say enough. You're going to practice a lot and practice safely. And I think it's the same as if I was standing with you out in the woods talking to you about throwing knives. You know, all I can do, even if I was standing with you, is just impart my knowledge to you and talk to you and demonstrate and show you, even if I was standing with you. So I'm giving you all that, 5 hours worth in this course. And I do think it is the most complete knife throwing course in the universe. So, take care. Oh, one other thing. Sorry. Sergeant Shanks, right? I was Sergeant Shank for 18 years of my life. The other 2 years where I wasn't a sergeant yet. So, if Colonel Sanders can sell chicken, and he wasn't a colonel, I think he was a private in the Army. And he called himself Colonel Sanders, and he can sell chicken. Nobody has a problem with that. Well, I was a sergeant and a knife thrower in the Army, so, and a training sergeant. So, that's what it is. All right, take care.